Holy Bible reading to request divine union, Theosis, part 120. We continue with the Old Testament, Proverbs chapter 17. And I have to ask for your forgiveness because sometimes when I read the passages, I get choked up because it does get to me. And I'm sorry if you hear sometimes a quivering in my voice. I'm trying not to get choked up, not to show it, but forgive me if you hear it sometimes. Okay. So now we continue with Proverbs chapter 17. Family and friends. Better is a morsel with enjoyment and peace than a house full of many good things, and an unrighteous sacrifices with quarreling. A servant with discernment shall rule over masters without discernment, and will divide portions among brethren. As silver and gold are tested in a furnace, so are chosen hearts before the Lord. An evil man heeds the tongue of the lawless, but a righteous man pays no attention to false lips. He who laughs at the poor provokes the one who made him, and he who rejoices in destruction will not be unpunished. But he who has compassion will be shown mercy. The crown of old men is children of children, and the boasting of children is their fathers. The entire world of goods belongs to the faithful, but to the faithful not even a penny. Faithful lips will not adapt to a man without discernment, nor lying lips to a righteous man. Instruction awards benefit to those using it, and whenever it turns, it prospers them. He who hides wrongdoing seeks love, but he who hates to cover them will separate friends and close relatives. A threat breaks the heart of a man with discernment, but a man without discernment, though flogged, has no perception. Every evil man stirs up controversy, but the Lord will send him a merciless messenger. Care will befall a thoughtful man, but men without discernment devise evil things. He who repays evil for good, evil will not be removed from his house. The foundation of righteousness gives authority to words, but discord and quarreling precedes poverty. He who judges the unrighteous as righteous, and the righteous as unrighteous, he is unclean and abominable before God. Why do goods belong to a man without discernment? For a heartless man is unable to gain wisdom. He who makes his own house lofty seeks destruction, and the one who turns away from learning will fall into evils. Let a friend be with you on every occasion, and let brethren be useful in necessities, for they are begotten for this reason. A man without discernment applauds and rejoices over himself, as also the one who gives himself a surety for his friend. He who loves sin rejoices in quarrels, and the hard-hearted man does not assemble with good men. A changeable man will fall into evils with his tongue, and a heart without discernment is grief to the one possessing it. A father does not delight in an uninstructed son, but a son with discernment gladdens his mother. A cheerful heart makes a man healthy, but the bones of a sorrowful man dry him up. The ways of a man who receives gifts unrighteously do not prosper, and the ungodly man shuns the ways of righteousness. The face of a wise man shows understanding, but the eyes of a man without discernment are upon the ends of the earth. A son without discernment is wrath to a father, and grief to her who bore him. It is not good to punish a righteous man, nor is it holy to plot against righteous princes. He who refrains from uttering a harsh word is intelligent, and a long-suffering man has discernment. Wisdom shall be imputed to a man without understanding who asks for wisdom, and anyone who holds his peace will seem to have discernment. Chapter 18, Words and Works. A man seeks a pretext when he wishes to separate from his friends, but he shall be reproached at every opportunity. A man lacking understanding has no need of wisdom, for he is rather led by lack of discernment. When an ungodly man comes into the depths of evil things, he acts contemptuously, but dishonor and reproach come upon him. A word in the heart of a man is deep water, and a river and a fountain of life spring up from it. It is not good to admire the person of the ungodly, nor is it holy to pervert righteousness in judgment. The lips of a man without discernment lead him into evil things, and his rash mouth calls upon death. The mouth of a man without discernment is destruction to him, and his lips are the snare of his soul. Fear destroys slothful men, and the souls of cowardly men shall hunger. He who does not heal himself by his works, he is a brother of him who maltreats himself. The name of the Lord is of great strength, and when the righteous run to it, they are exalted. The substance of a rich man is a strong city, and its glory casts a great shadow. Before its destruction, the heart of a man exalts itself, and before its glory, it humbles himself. He who replies to a word before he hears it lacks discernment, and this is a reproach to him. A servant with discernment calms the anger of a man, but who can support a discouraged man? A heart of discernment gains perception, and the ears of the wise seek understanding. The gift of a man enlarges him and sets him beside princes. When a prosecutor speaks first, he seems righteous, but when the defender examines his case, he is reproved. An allotment of land ends controversies, and it determines the boundary between princes. A brother aided by his brother is like a strong and fortified city, and he is strong like a well-founded palace. From the fruits of his mouth a man fills his stomach, and from the fruits of his lips he will fill himself to the full. Life and death are in the hands of a tongue, and those who rule over it will eat the fruits thereof. He who finds a good wife finds benefits, and receives cheerfulness from God. He who casts out a good wife casts out good things, and he who keeps adulteresses in is without discernment and is ungodly. Chapter 19, Mercy and Malice. A man's lack of discernment maltreats his ways, and in his heart he blames God. Wealth adds many friends, but the poor man is even forsaken by an existing friend. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he who accuses unrighteously shall not escape. Many men serve in the presence of kings, but every evil man becomes a reproach to another man. Every man who hates his poor brother, he shall be far from friendship. Good understanding will draw near those who know it. A man with discernment will find it. He who does many evil things perfects wickedness, and he who provokes with words, he shall not be saved. He who gains discernment loves himself, and he who guards discernment will find good things. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he who kindles evil will perish by it. Luxury is not profitable for a man without discernment, and it's not good if a servant begins to rule with arrogance. A merciful man is long-suffering, and his boast goes against the lawless. The anger of a king is like the roar of a lion, but the dew upon the grass, thus is his grace. A son without discernment is a disgrace to his father, and vows paid for the wage of a prostitute are not pure. And vows paid from the wage of a prostitute are not pure. Fathers divide the house and poverty to their children. Fathers divide the house and property to their children, but a wife is suited to her husband by God. Cowardice possesses a weak man, and the soul of the idle man will be hungry. He who guards the commandment keeps the soul, but he who despises his ways shall perish. The one who has mercy on the poor lends to God, and he will repay him according to his gift. Instruct your son, for thus he shall be hopeful, and do not lift up your soul in arrogance. A malicious man shall be punished severely, and if he commits an injury, he will also add this to his soul. Hear, my son, the instruction of your father, that you may become wise in your last days. These are many thoughts in the heart of a man, but the counsel of the Lord abides forever. Mercy is fruit to a man, and a poor righteous man is better than a rich liar. The fear of the Lord is unto life for a man, and he shall lodge without fear in places where knowledge is not examined. A man who hides his hands in the bosom unrighteously, he will not even bring them up to his mouth. When a pestilent man is punished, a man without discernment becomes more astute. If you reprove a discerning man, he will understand perception. He who dishonors his father and pushes away his mother, he will be shamed and reproached. A son who forsakes guarding his father's instruction, he will think about evil sayings. He who becomes surety for an undiscerning child despises the ordinance, and the mouth of the ungodly swallows judgments. Lashes are prepared for the intemperate, and punishments for the shoulders of those without discernment. Chapter 20. Double standard or single-mindedness. Wine is an intemperate thing, and strong drink is full of violence, and all who commingle with it will not be wise. The threat of a king does not differ from the anger of a lion, and he who provokes him sins against his own soul. It is glory for a man to turn away from reproaches, but every man without discernment is entangled with such things. A lazy man who is reproached feels no shame. Likewise also is he who borrows bread in harvest. Counsel is deep water in the heart of a man, and a man with discernment will draw it out. Man is important, and a man who shows mercy is noble, but it's difficult to find a faithful man. He who lives blamelessly in righteousness, he will leave blessed children behind him. When a righteous king sits upon the throne, no evil thing can oppose his presence. Who will boast about having a pure heart? Or who will declare boldly being clean from sins? The lamp of him who reviles his father or mother shall be put out, and the pupils of his eyes shall see darkness. A portion gained hastily in the beginning will not be blessed at the end. Do not say, I will avenge myself on the enemy, but wait on the Lord that you may be helped. A weight great and small, and a double standard, both are also unclean before the Lord, and the one who uses these things in his pursuits will be entangled. But a young man with holiness, his road is straight. The ears hear and the eyes see, both are also works of the Lord. Do not love to speak ill, that you may not be taken away. Open your eyes, and you will be filled with bread. A double standard is an abomination to the Lord, and a deceitful scale is not good before him. Steps are made straight for a man by the Lord, but how can a mortal man understand his ways? It is a snare for a man to quickly sanctify something of his own things as holy, then after making his vow to come to a change of heart. A wise king with a winnower of the winnower of the ungodly, and casts him upon the wheel of torture. The breath of man is the light of the Lord, who searches the inner man. Mercy and truth are a guard for the king, and they will encircle his throne with righteousness. Wisdom is an ornament to the young men, and the glory of old men is their gray hair. Bruises and fractures happen to evil men, and plagues shall come into their inner man. Chapter 21. Godliness, willing to do God's will. As a flow of water, so is the heart of the king in the hand of God. Wherever he wills to incline it, there he turns it. Every man appears righteous to himself, but the Lord makes hearts right. To do righteous things and to speak the truth are more pleasant before God than the blood of sacrifices. The high-minded man is bold-hearted in his arrogance, and the lamp of the ungodly is sin. He who produces treasures with a lying tongue pursues worthless things upon the snares of death. Destruction shall entail the ungodly, for they are not willing to do righteous things. To the crooked God sends crooked ways, for his works are pure and upright. It is better to dwell in the corner in the open air than with wrongdoing in plastered rooms and in a shared house. The soul of the ungodly would not be shown mercy by anyone among men. When the intemperate man is punished, the simple man becomes more astute, and a wise man of understanding shall receive knowledge. A righteous man understands the hearts of the ungodly, and he despises the ungodly in their evils. He who closes his ears that he might not listen to the weak, he will also call upon someone, and there will be no one listening. A secret gift calms anger, but he who refrains from giving gifts stirs up strong anger. It is the joy of the righteous to do judgment, but a holy man is unclean before evildoers. A man who wanders from the way of righteousness shall rest in an assembly of giants. A man in need loves merriment, loving wine and oil as wealth. A lawless man is the outcast of a righteous man. It is better to live in a desert than with a contentious, talkative, and quick-tempered woman. A treasury of desire will rest upon the mouth of a wise man, but men without discernment shall swallow it. The way of righteousness and mercy shall find life and glory. A wise man assaults fortified cities and pulls down the stronghold, the ungodly trust. He who guards his mouth and tongue keeps his whole from tribulation. A troublemaker is called rash, arrogant, and boastful, and he who bears malice is called lawless. Desires kill a slothful man, for his hand chooses not to do anything. The ungodly man desires evil all day long, but the righteous man shows mercy and compassion unsparingly. The sacrifices of the ungodly are an abomination to the Lord, for they offer them lawlessly. The false man shall perish, but an obedient man will speak guardedly. An ungodly man resists shamelessly to the face, but the upright man himself understands his ways. There is no wisdom, there is no courage, there is no counsel for the ungodly. The horse is prepared for the day of war, but help is from the Lord. Chapter 22. Rich man, poor man. A good name is to be chosen more than much wealth, and good grace more than silver and gold. A rich man and the poor man meet with one another, but the Lord made both. An astute man sees an evil man severely punished, is himself instructed, but those passing by without discernment suffer loss. The fear of the Lord and riches and glory and life are the offspring of wisdom. Thorns and snares are in the ways of the crooked, but he who guards his own soul will keep away from them. The rich will rule over the poor, and servants will lend to their own masters. He who sows worthless things will reap evil things, and bring to an end the plague of his works. God blesses a cheerful man and a giver, and he will bring to an end the vanity of his works. He who shows mercy to the poor man shall himself be supported, for he gave his own bread to the poor man. He who gives gifts to a poor man gains victory and honor for himself. However, he who buys him takes away his soul. Cast out a pestilent man from the assembly, and contention will go out with him. For whenever he sits in the assembly, he dishonors everyone. The Lord loves holy hearts, and all the blameless are acceptable to him. A king governs lips, and the eyes of the Lord maintains perception, but the lawless man despises his words. A slothful man makes accuses and says, "There is a lion in the way, and murderers in the streets." The mouth of a lawless man is a deep pit, and a man hated by the Lord shall fall into it. Evil ways are before a man, and he does not love to turn away from them, but it is necessary to turn away from a crooked and evil way. Folly fastens itself to the heart of a child, for the rod and instruction are far from him. He who oppresses a poor man increases his possessions, yet he gives them to a rich man to lessen them. Incline your ear to the words of the wise and hear my word, and establish your heart that you may know they are good. And if you apply them to your heart, they will gladden you and at the same time be upon your lips, that your hope might be in the Lord, and his way might be known to you, and register them upon the breadth of your heart for yourself threefold. For counsel and knowledge, therefore, I teach you the true word, and good knowledge to be obeyed, that you might answer words of truth to those who question you. Do not rob the poor, for he is needy, and do not dishonor the helpless at the gates, for the Lord will judge his cause, and you will deliver your soul from violence. Do not be a companion to an angry man, and do not associate with a quick-tempered friend, lest you learn his ways, and receive a snare for your soul. And do not give yourself as surety because you respect a person, for if you do not have the wherewithal to make compensation, they will take your bed out from under you. Do not remove the eternal landmarks your fathers established. An observant man and one who astute in his business should be present with kings, and he should not be present with slothful men. Chapter 23. Understanding and Priorities. If you sit down to dine at the table of princes, understand carefully the things put before you and apply your hand, knowing you should prepare certain things, and if you are insatiable, do not desire its delicacies, for these things belong to a false life. If you are poor, do not measure yourself with a rich man, but keep away from this in your thinking. If you fix your eye on him, he will disappear, for wings like an eagle's are prepared for him, and he returns to the house of his master. Do not dine with an envious man, neither desire his foods, for as someone who may swallow a hair, so he eats and drinks. Neither invite him in, nor eat your morsel with him, for he will vomit it forth and maltreat your good works. Speak nothing into the ears of a man without discernment, lest he treat your wise words with contempt. Do not remove the eternal landmarks, and do not enter the possession of orphans, for the Lord who redeems them is mighty, and he will judge their cause with you. Give your heart to instruction, and prepare your ears for words of perception. Do not withhold instruction from a child, for if you should strike him with a rod, he will not die. For you shall strike him with a rod and deliver his soul from death. My son, if your heart becomes wise, you will also gladden my heart, and your lips shall spend time with the words on my lips. If they be upright, do not let your heart envy sinners, but be in the fear of the Lord the whole day long. For if you keep these words, you shall have offspring, and your hope will not depart from you. A father's counsel on wine and women. Hear, my son, and become wise, and direct aright the thoughts of your heart. Do not be a wine bibber, neither provide contributions to meats or goods at drinking parties. For every drunkard and fornicator shall become impoverished, and every sluggard shall clothe himself with tattered and ragged garments. Hear, my son, your father who begot you. Do not despise your mother because she has grown old. A righteous father rears his child well, and his soul rejoices in a wise son. Let your father and mother be glad in you, and let her who bore you rejoice. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes observe my ways. For a house of prostitution is a pierced vessel, and a strange and empty well. For he shall perish suddenly, and every lawless man shall be destroyed. Who has woe? Who has tumult? Who has condemnation? Who has unpleasantness and gossip? Who has affliction with no purpose? Whose eyes are pale? Is it not those who linger long with wines? Is it not those who hunt for the whereabouts of drinking parties? Do not be drunk with wine, but keep company with righteous men, and keep company in public walks. If you set your eyes to the bowls and cups, to the bowls and cups, afterwards you will walk with more naked than ground meat. And at last he stretches himself out as one bitten by a serpent, and the venom spreads through him as one bitten by a horned serpent. When your eyes behold a strange woman, then your mouth will speak twisted things, and you will lie down as in the heart of the sea, and as a pilot in a great storm, and you will say, They beat me, but I did not suffer, and they mocked me, but I knew it not. When will it be morning, that I may go seek those whom I may company? Chapter 24. Issues of life and death. My son, do not envy evil men, neither desire to be with them, for their heart ponders a lie. Their lips speak of sufferings. A house is built with wisdom, and it is built upon the understanding with understanding. Storehouses are filled with perception from all honorable and good riches. It is better to be a wise man of strength, a man having discernment, than to be a man who is with a large estate. War comes with the skill of a commander, but help comes with the heart of a counselor. Wisdom and good thinking are in the gates of the wise. The wise do not turn away from the mouth of the Lord, but they deliberate with counsels. Death happens to the uninstructed, but a man without discernment shall die in his sins. And uncleanness will pollute a pestilent man. In an evil day and a day of tribulation until he dies, rescue those being led into death, and saw off the bonds of those being cast out. Do not spare, help them. If you say, I do not know this man, know that the Lord knows the hearts of all, and he who formed every breath knows all things. Who will render to each man according to his works? My son, eat honey from the honeycomb. My son, eat honey, for the honeycomb is good, that your throat may be sweetened. Thus you shall discern wisdom for your soul, for if you find it, there will be a good end to your life, and hope will not abandon you. Do not bring an ungodly man to the dwelling of the righteous, neither be deceived by the full satisfaction of the stomach. For a righteous man will fall 7 times and rise again, but the ungodly shall weaken in evils. If your enemy falls, do not rejoice over him. Do not exalt yourself at his stumbling, because the Lord will see this, and it will not please him. And he will turn his anger from him. Do not rejoice in evildoers, nor envy sinners, for there is no future for evil men, and the lamp of the ungodly shall be put out. Fear God, my son, and the king, and dissipate neither of them, for suddenly they will take retribution on the ungodly, and who will know the punishments of both? A son who guards the word will be free from destruction, for he receives it fully. Let no lie be spoken from your tongue to the king, and let no lie come from his tongue. The tongue of the king is a sword and not of flesh, and whoever it delivers it will annihilate. For if his anger is sharpened, it destroys men with its sinews, and it devours the bones of men, and it burns like a flame, so as to be inedible for the nestlings of eagles. Now I say the following to you, the wise, to observe, it is not good to be partial in judgment. He who says about an ungodly man he is righteous shall be accursed to people and despicable to nations. But those who reprove him shall appear more excellent, and a good blessing shall come upon them. And they will kiss the lips that answer good words. Prepare your works for your going forth, and prepare yourself for the field, and walk behind me, and you shall build up your house. Do not be a false witness against your countrymen, neither open wide your lips, and do not say, I will treat him as he treated me, and I shall avenge myself on him wherein he wronged me. A man without discernment is like a field, and a man in need of discernment is like a vineyard. If you leave it alone, it will remain dry and barren, altogether covered with grass and forsaken, and its stone walls will be razed to the ground. Afterward I repented. I observed that I might choose instruction. I doze a little, and I sleep a little, and I fold my arms across my chest a little. If you do this, your poverty shall go before you, and want like a strong runner. Chapter 25. These are the miscellaneous instructions of Solomon, which his friends, the friends of Hezekiah, the king of Judah, wrote out. The glory of God hides a word, and the glory of the king honors deeds. Heaven is high and earth is deep, but the heart of the king is incapable of disproof. Beat drossy silver, and it will be made entirely clean. Slay the ungodly from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness. Do not brag on yourself in the presence of the king, neither stand in the places of princes. For it is better that it be said to you, Come up to me, than for you to be humbled in the presence of a prince. Speak the things your eyes see. Do not enter into a quarrel quickly, that you may not be sorry in the end. When your friend reproaches you, retreat and do not despise him, lest your friend continue to reproach you, and you quarrel, and enmity shall not depart, but be equal to death for you. Grace and friendship free a man. Keep these for yourself, that you may not be reproached, but guard your ways peaceably, as a golden apple in the small necklace of a sardius stone. Thus it is to speak a wise word, as a very expensive sardius stone set in a golden earring. So it is a wise word to an obedient ear. As the falling of snow in harvest is beneficial against the heat, so is a faithful messenger to those who send him. For he benefits the souls of those who use him. As wind, clouds, and rain are evident, so are those who boast in a false gift. There is prosperity for kings in patience, and a mild tongue breaks bones. When you find honey, eat what is sufficient, lest being filled you shall vomit it up. Seldom visit your own friend's house, lest he become fed up with your company and hate you. As a club, a sword, and a pointed arrow, so also is the man who testifies as a false witness against his friend. The tooth of an evil man and the foot of the lawless man shall perish in an evil day, as vinegar is bad for the festering wound. So calamity befalling the body grieves the heart. As a moth in a garment and a worm in wood, so the grief of a man damages the heart. If your enemy is hungry, feed him, and if he is thirsty, give him drink. For by doing this you shall heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you with good things. The north wind stirs up clouds, and a shameless face provokes the tongue. It is better to dwell in the corner on a housetop than in a house shared with an abusive woman. As cold water is agreeable to a thirsty soul, so is good news from far-off land. As if someone would stop a spring and corrupt an outlet of water, so it is unseemly for a righteous man to fall before the ungodly. It is not good to eat too much honey, but it is necessary to honor words held in honor. As an unfortified city, those whose walls are broken down, so is a man who does something without counsel. 26. The undiscerning man. As dew is in harvest, and as rain in summer, so honor is not for a man without discernment. As birds and sparrows fly, so a curse will not come upon anyone without a cause. As a whip for a horse and a prod for a donkey, so is a rod for a lawless nation. Do not answer an undiscerning man in relation to his lack of discernment, lest you become like him, but answer an undiscerning man contrary to his lack of discernment, so he may not appear wise to himself. He shall drink reproach at his own feet. Who sends a word through an undiscerning messenger? Remove the motion of the legs and a proverb from the mouth of men without discernment. He who binds a stone in a sling is like one who gives glory to a man without discernment. Thorny plants grow in the hand of the drunkard, and slavery in the hands of men without discernment. All flesh of men without discernment grievously suffers many things, for their illusion is brought to nothing, as when a dog returns to his own vomit and becomes despicable, So is a man without discernment who returns to his own evil by his own sin. There is shame that brings on sin, and there is shame that is glory and grace. I saw a man who seems to himself to be wise, but a man without discernment has more hope than he. The slothful man. A slothful man who is sent on his way says, "There is a lion in the way." As the door turns upon its hinges, so does a slothful man upon his bed. When a slothful man hides his hand in his bosom, he shall be unable to bring it to his mouth. A slothful man appears wiser to himself than he who satisfactorily brings back a message. The scheming man. As he who lays hold of a dog's tail, so is he who is the mouthpiece of another's cause, as those who need correction speak to others. He who first replies in the words shall be tripped up. So are all who set up a trap for their own friends. But when they are discovered, they say, "I did it in jest." A fire rages among many trees, but when there is no disagreement, contention is at rest. As a fireplace is for coals and wood for a fire, so a contentious man kindles violence. The words of a table bearer are mild, for they strike into the innermost affections. Money given with deceit is like a sharp piece of broken pottery, and so smooth lips hide a heart that causes pain. A weeping enemy promises everything with his lips, but in his heart he devises deceits. If your enemy entreats you with a loud voice, do not consent, for there are 7 vices in his soul. He who hides enmity contrives deceit, but being well known in the assemblies, he exposes his own sins. He who digs a pit for his neighbor shall fall into it, and he who rolls a stone rolls it upon himself. A lying tongue hates the truth, and an unguarded mouth causes confusion. Chapter 27, Wisdom for Today. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what the next day will bring forth. Let your neighbor praise you, and not your own words, a stranger and not your own lips. A stone is heavy, and sand is cumbersome, but the wrath of a man without discernment is heavier than both. Wrath is merciless, and anger passionate, but jealousy supports nothing. Open reproofs are better than hidden love. The wounds of a friend are more trustworthy than the voluntary kisses of an enemy. A satiated soul mocks honeycombs, and to a hungry soul even bitter things appear sweet. As when a bird flies down from its own nest, so is a man enslaved whenever he becomes a fugitive from his own place. The heart delights in perfumes, wines, and incenses, but the soul is broken by mishaps. Do not abandon your friend or the friend of your father, and when you have misfortune, do not go to your brother's house. A friend nearby is better than a brother far away. My son, become wise that my heart may be glad, and turn away from your reproachful words. An astute man hides when evils are at hand, but when men without discernment are at hand, they will pay the penalty. If a haughty man passes by, take away his garment, for he lays waste the goods of another. Whoever blesses a friend early in the morning with a loud voice, he will not seem different from one who curses him. Continual dripping on a rainy day drives a man from his house. In like manner, a contentious woman also drives a man from his own house. The north wind is a harsh wind, and a prosperous man is called harsh. Iron sharpens iron, and a man sharpens the countenance of his friends. Whoever plants a fig tree will eat its fruit, and whoever guards his own master will be honored. As faces are not like other faces, so neither are the hearts of men. Hades and destruction are not satiated. In like manner, the eyes of men are also insatiable. He whose eye is fixed is an abomination to the Lord, and the uninstructed are intemperate with the tongue. Proving by fire is a way of testing for silver and gold, but a man is tested by the mouth of those who praise him. A lawless heart seeks evil things, but an upright heart seeks knowledge. If you should whip a man without discernment in the midst of the council and dishonor him, he would not remove his lack of discernment. Now know thoroughly the souls of your sheep, and you will set your heart on your flocks. Since strength and might are not in man forever, neither are they transmitted down from generation to generation. Take care of the green plants in the field, and cut the herbs short, and gather the grass of the mountains, that you may have the wool of sheep for clothing. Honor the field, so there may be lambs for you, my son, You have strong sayings from me for your life, and for the life of your servants. Chapter 28. The Lawful and the Lawless. An ungodly man flees when no one is pursuing, but a righteous man is confident as a lion. Condemnations arise because of the sins of the ungodly, but an astute man quenches them. A bold man harasses the poor with ungodliness, as a driving and unprofitable rain. So those who forsake the law praise ungodliness. But those who love the law surround themselves with a wall. Evil men do not understand judgment, but those who seek the Lord shall understand it in everything. A poor man walking in the truth is better than a rich liar. A wise son keeps the law, but he who cherishes luxury dishonors his father. He who increases his wealth with usury and unjust gains gathers it for him who shows mercy to the poor. He who turns away his ear so as not to hear the law, he also makes his prayer repulsive. He who lends upright men astray in an evil way, he shall fall into destruction. And lawless men shall pass by good things, and they shall not enter into them. A rich man is wise in his own eyes, but a poor man shall disapprove of his thoughts. Great glory arises because of the help of the righteous, but in places of the ungodly men are conquered. He who hides his own ungodliness shall not prosper, but he who leads his own rebuttal shall be loved. Blessed is the man who shall be discreet in all things because of godly fear, but the man who hardens his heart shall fall into evils. A hungry lion and a thirsty wolf is he who, being poor, tyrannizes over the poor people. A king in need of revenues is a great oppressor, but he who hates unrighteousness shall live a long time. He who becomes surety for a man charged with murder shall be a fugitive and unsafe. Instruct your son, and he shall love you, and he shall give honor to your soul, lest he follow a lawless people. He who walks righteously shall be helped, and he who walks in crooked ways shall be entangled therein. He who works his own land shall be satisfied with bread, but he who pursues leisure shall be filled with poverty. A trustworthy man shall be blessed in many things, but an evil man shall not go unpunished. He who does not respect righteous people is not good. Such a man will sell another for a morsel of bread. An envious man hastens to be rich, but does not know that a merciful man shall have the mastery over him. He who reproves a man's way shall have more grace than he who flatters him. He who casts off his father or mother and thinks he does not sin, he is an accomplice of ungodly men. A greedy man judges rashly, but he who trusts in the Lord shall be careful. He who trusts in an arrogant heart, such a man is without discernment. But he who walks in wisdom, such a man shall be saved. He who gives to the poor shall not be in want, but he who turns away his eye from them shall be in much distress. A righteous lament in the places of the ungodly, but in their destruction the righteous shall be increased. Chapter 29. The Wise and the Unwise. A reproving man is better than an obstinate man, for when the latter is suddenly consumed there shall be no remedy. When the righteous are praised, the people shall rejoice, but when the ungodly rule, men lament. When a man loves wisdom, his father rejoices, but he who keeps prostitutes shall destroy his wealth. A righteous king shall establish a country, but a lawless man raises it to the ground. He who prepares a net for the presence of his own friend casts it around his own feet. It is a great snare to a man when he sins, but a righteous man shall be enjoying gladness. A righteous man understands how to judge on behalf of the poor, but the ungodly man will not consider such knowledge, for he has no understanding heart for a poor man. Pestilent men burn down a city, but wise men turn away wrath. A wise man judges people fairly, but when a worthless man is angry, he laughs at them and does not fear. Bloodthirsty men will hate a holy man, but the upright will seek his soul. A man without discernment brings forth his whole mind, but a wise man distributes his in part. When a king obeys an unrighteous word, all those under him are lawless. When a creditor and a debtor meet with one another, the Lord watches both of them. When a king judges the poor truly, his throne shall be established as a testimony. Blows and reproofs give wisdom, but a child who goes astray shames his parents. When the ungodly are many, there are many sins, but when they fall, the righteous are fearful. Instruct your son, and he shall give you rest, and he will delight your soul. There shall be no interpreter of the law for a lawless nation. but he who guards the law is very blessed. A stubborn servant will not be instructed by words, for even if he understands them, he will not obey. If you see a man hasty in words, know a man without discernment has more hope than he. He who lives luxuriously from childhood shall be a servant, and in the end he shall cause himself pain. An angry man digs up strife, but a furious man digs up sins. Arrogance humbles a man, but the Lord supports the humble-minded with glory. He who takes part with a thief hates his own soul, and if, when an oath is set forth, those who hear it do not report it, they are tripped up because they fear and stand in awe of men. But he who trusts in the Lord will rejoice. Ungodliness causes a man to stumble, but he who trusts in the Master shall be saved. Many serve in the presence of leaders, but righteousness comes to a man from the Lord. An abomination to the righteous is an unrighteous man, and the upright way is an abomination to the lawless. Chapter 30. A Father's Wisdom. My son, fear my words, and when you receive them, repent. The man says these things to choose who believe in God. Then I cease speaking, for I am the most lacking of all men in discernment, and the discernment of men is not in me. God gives me wisdom, and I know holy things. Who ascends into heaven and descends? Who gathers the winds in his bosom? Who wraps up the water in a garment? Who rules over all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his children, that you might acknowledge it? All the words of God are tried in fire, and he defends those who fear him. Do not add to his words, that he might not reprove you and become a liar. 2 things I ask from you. Do not take away grace from me before I die. Make a vain word and a lie be far from me, but give me neither riches nor poverty, and appoint what is necessary and is sufficient for me. Lest being full I become a liar and say, who sees me? And being poor I steal and swear by the name of God. Do not deliver a servant into the hands of his master, lest he curse you and you be destroyed. An evil offspring curses his father and does not bless his mother. An evil offspring judges himself righteous, but is not washed from its uncleanness. An evil offspring has haughty eyes, and exalts himself with his eyelids. An evil offspring has teeth like swords and molars like knives, so as to destroy and to devour the poor from the earth, and their needy from among men. Lessons from animals. The leech had 3 dearly loved daughters, and these 3 did not satisfy her, and the 4th did not satisfy her for her to say, it is enough. Hades and the love of a woman, and Tartarus and the earth not satisfied with water, and water and fire will not say, it is enough. The eye that mocks his father and dishonors the old age of his mother, let the ravens of the valley pick it out, and the young eagles devour it. Now there are 3 things I cannot understand, and a 4th I do not know. The track of a flying eagle, and the ways of a serpent upon a rock, and the paths of a ship passing through the sea, and the ways of a man in his youth, such is the way of an adulterous woman, who, when she commits adultery, washes herself and says she did nothing wrong. The earth is shaken by 3 things, and is unable to bear a 4th. If a servant reigns, or a man without discernment is satiated with food, or if a maidservant casts out her own mistress, or a hateful woman marries a good man. Now there are 4 very small things upon earth, but these are wiser than the wise. The ants, which are not strong, yet they prepare provisions in the summer. The rabbits, which are not a strong tribe, yet they make their own homes in the rocks. The locust, which is not without a king, yet he marches out as one commanded in an orderly manner. And the spotted lizard, which supports himself with his hands and is easily caught, yet he dwells in the fortress of kings. There are 3 things which walk easily, and the 4th that strides well. The cub of a lion stronger than other animals, and does not turn away, neither fears any animal. A cock walking about boldly among the hens. A he-goat leading a flock. A king speaking publicly to the people. If you abandon yourself to merriment and stretch forth your hand with contention, you will be dishonored. Churn milk, and it will become butter. And if you squeeze someone's nose, blood will come out. And if you draw out words, condemnations and contentions will emerge. Chapter 31. My words were spoken by God, the oracular response of a king, whom his mother instructed. A mother's wisdom. What, my child, will you keep? What, the words of God? My firstborn son, I say to you, what, the child of my womb? What, the child of my vows? Do not give your wealth to women, nor your heart or life to remorse. Do all things with counsel, drink wine with counsel. Princes are prone to anger, but let them not drink wine, lest while they drink they forget wisdom, and be unable to judge the weak uprightly. Give strong drink to those in sorrow, and wine to a drink for those in pain, for they may forget their poverty, and no longer remember their grief. Open your mouth for the word of God, and judge all men fairly. Open your mouth and judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and helpless. A virtuous wife. Who will find a courageous wife? For such a one is more valuable than precious stones. The heart of her husband trusts in her. She will not be at loss for fine spoils. For she provides good things for her husband all her life. She weaves wool and linen cloth, and is productive with her hands. She is like a ship trading afar off, so she procures her livelihood. She also rises before dawn and gives food to her household, and appoints tasks for her handservants. Seeing a farm, she buys it, and from the fruits of her hands she plants her plot of land. Strongly girded her loins, she strengthens her arm for work. She experiences work as a good thing, and her lamp is not quenched all night. She extends her arms to do profitable things, and she applies her hands to the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor, and reaches out with her fruit to the needy. Her husband is not anxious about those at home, when he spends a long time elsewhere, for all her household are clothed. She makes a double upper garment for her husband, and garments of fine linen and pure and purple for herself. Her husband is respected at the gates, and when he sits in council with the elders who inhabit the land. She makes and sells fine linens and girdles to the Canaanites. She opens her mouth carefully and lawfully, and controls her tongue. She clothes herself with strength and dignity, and rejoices in the last days. She runs her household carefully, and she does not eat the bread of idleness. She opens her mouth wisely and lawfully, and her charity raises her children and become rich, and her husband praises her. Many daughters acquire riches, many do mighty things, but you excel and surpass all. Desires to please are deceitful, and the beauty of a wife is vain. For a wise wife is blessed, and let her in fear praise the Lord. Give to her from the fruits of her hands, and let her husband praise her at the gates. And we'll continue, that's the end of Proverbs, and we'll continue with Ecclesiastes tomorrow. And now we'll go to book of Revelation. We're going slowly with Revelation because of the fact that Revelation is the last book of the New Testament. Revelation chapter 9, trumpet 5, woe 1, the locusts. When the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth, to him who was given the key to the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any tree, but only those men who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like torment of scorpions when it strikes a man. In those days men will seek death and will not find it, and they will desire to die, and death will flee from them. The shape of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns of something like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. They had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth, and they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. Their power was to hurt men 5 months, and they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in the Greek has the name Apollyon. One woe is past, behold, still 2 more woes are coming after these things. Trumpet 6, woe 2, the plagues. Then the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. So the 4 angels who had prepared for the hour and day and month of the year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow. And the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these 3 plagues, a third of mankind was killed, by the fire and smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouths. For their power was in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails are like serpents, having heads, and with them they do harm. But the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues did not repent of the works of their hands, that they should not worship demons and idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood, which can neither see nor hear nor walk. And they did not repent of their murders, or their sorceries, or their sexual immorality, or their thefts. And we'll continue with the next part tomorrow. Thank you for your support, and God bless you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.